In this lesson, we are going to continue graphing linear relations. However, how they differ from the previous lesson is that in this case, the equation is not written as a y equals. So there's a little bit more involvement when we go and substitute our x values and solve for y. But the idea is the same. We are still creating a table of values, and we still want to choose a minimum of 3 points. So as in the previous lesson, you can choose any x values you want. However, a good recommendation would be 1 negative, 0, and 1 positive. So I'm going to start with -2, 0, and +2. So we substitute -2 into the x value. So 2 times -2 is -4. And now we have to solve for y. So we use inverse operations. So we get y equals -2. So our first ordered pair is -2, -2. Now we substitute 0 into x. 2 times 0 is 0. So 0 plus y is just y. So y equals -6. So our second ordered pair is 0, -6. And repeat this process one more time with a +2. 2 times 2 is 4. And to solve for y inverse operations, we are going to subtract 4, and we get y equals -10. So we have our 3 ordered pairs that we can graph. -2, -2 is 2 to the left and 2 down. 0, -6 means do not move left or right, just go 6 down. And 2, -10 is 2 to the right and 10 down. And then, because it's not in a situation, we extend a line through these, put arrows on both ends, because depending on the x values you pick, you could have them continue in either direction. To check if it's increasing or decreasing, leftmost point towards the right, we are falling, so it's a decreasing relation. Sometimes we may have to use fractions to graph an equation. That's going to possibly occur when we have a coefficient on the y. So when there is a number that is multiplied to the y value, we may have to deal with fractions. That's okay. So what we do is we still set up our table of values with a minimum of 3 points. So again, I'm going to choose -2, 0, +2. We're going to substitute into the equation. So -3 times -2 plus 2y equals 1. We get +6 plus 2y equals 1. Solving equations, we use inverse operations, so we need to subtract 6. 2y equals -5. Inverse of multiplication is division, so we divide both sides by 2. So we are going to get -5 divided by 2 is -2.5. That's not too bad of a one to have to deal with, because we know where half is between our grid points. Now we do the same thing with 0. -3 times 0 plus 2y equals 1. -3 times 0 is just 0, so we have 2y equals 1. Inverse operations, we need to divide by 2. Y equals 0.5. And again, 0.5s are not hard to work with on a graph. So our last one is to substitute +2 into our equation. So we will get -6 plus 2y equals 1. Inverse operation means add 6. So we get 2y equals 7. Inverse is divide by 2. So we end up with y equals 3.5. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So we can work with 0.5s pretty easily. So to plot our first point, we go 2 to the left and down 2.5. And we put our point. 0, 0.5, that means we do not move left or right, and we just go down half. 2 and 3.5 means we move 2 to the right and we go up 3.5. And now we join these with our line. And then we put arrows on both sides. And now what we can do is we look at increasing or decreasing. Here's our left point going towards our right. It is rising, so this is an increasing relation. So one more example just to make sure we've got this down. So again, create your XY table of values. Choose a minimum of 3 points. I'll stick with the same ones we've been using. And let's find the matching Y values. So we put in negative. Now here's a tricky one. That is a negative X in the equation. So if I've chosen an X value that is negative, I actually have to write negative, negative 2 in order to make sure I get my coordinates correct. So negative, negative 2 is actually positive 2. So you need to be careful with that when your X is negative. Inverse operations, I'm subtracting 2. So I'm going to get 4y equals 1. Inverse of multiplication is division. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. 0.25. Putting 0 in. So negative 0 plus 4y equals 3. Now negative 0 is just 0. So we've got 4y equals 3. So we divide by 4. And 3/4 is 0.75. These are going to be a little bit harder to graph. The line might not look like it goes through in a straight line, but you need to realize it has to do with the thickness of your pencil, and so it's going to be fairly close. And then we've got a positive 2 we're putting in. So negative positive 2 plus 4y equals 3. So we end up with negative 2 plus 4y equals 3. Inverse of negative is addition. So we get 4y equals 5. Inverse divided by 4. 5 divided by 4 is 1.25. So now we can plot these. Negative 2 and 0.25 means 2 to the left and about a quarter of the way up. And this is where the thickness of your pencil is going to cause you a little bit of problems. But you do the best you can. 0 and 0.75. So that means we don't even go up. We almost get to the 1. And then 2 and 1.25. So right in around here. So then we take our line and we go through those points the best that we can, extending in both directions, and we put arrows on the end. Left point towards the right point, we are rising, so this is an increasing relation.